Imagine standing on a world where the sky is the color of rust, where the ground beneath your boots has never known rain, and where the nearest human being, before today, was 140 million miles away. Now imagine a city rising from that dust. Not an outpost, not a research bunker, a city with power, water, air, and life, streets, homes, a future. This is not science fiction. This is the plan that one company is already executing, and the man behind it has launched more rockets than any nation on Earth. What would it take to build the first city on another planet? How do you move 1 million people with food, air, and shelter across the void of space? And what happens to humanity if we actually pull it off? Stay with us, because what SpaceX is planning for Mars will change everything you thought you knew about the future of our species. Here is a number that should wake you up: 8 billion. That is how many humans are sharing one fragile rock, hurtling through space right now. One asteroid, one engineered pandemic, one volcanic super eruption, one wrong move by the wrong hand on the wrong button, and it could all be over. For thousands of years, every egg of the human race has sat in a single basket. Elon Musk has been fixated on this terrifying fact for most of his adult life. He calls it the risk of extinction, and his answer is brutally simple. We need to become a multiplanetary species, or we are gambling with everything we have ever built. Mars was not chosen randomly. A Martian day is 24.6 hours, almost identical to Earth's. Mars has water ice locked beneath its poles and buried in its soil. It has carbon dioxide in its atmosphere, which can be converted into oxygen. It has enough sunlight to power solar panels. And every 26 months, when Earth and Mars align, a launch window opens, a cosmic door that SpaceX is preparing to walk through again and again until the door never closes. But before a single human foot touches Martian soil, years of meticulous planning must unfold. And the vehicle at the center of that plan, it once seemed like a hallucination. It is called Starship, the largest, most powerful rocket ever built by human hands. Standing nearly 400 feet tall, it dwarfs the Saturn V that carried Apollo astronauts to the moon. It is designed to carry 100 to 150 metric tons of cargo into orbit, and it is fully reusable, like a commercial airliner that lands, refuels, and flies again the same day. SpaceX wants to build hundreds of these, not one, not 10, hundreds, because getting 1 million people to Mars requires launching roughly one Starship every single day during a launch window with the same routine reliability as a busy international airport. The planning for a Mars city begins not on Mars, but in Boca Chica, Texas, a remote coastline that SpaceX has transformed into the most consequential piece of real estate on Earth. Engineers have mapped out not just how to fly to Mars, but how to build an entire civilization from scratch on a world that has never hosted life. Landing zones cluster around volcanic plains near the equator, where terrain is flat, temperatures are less extreme, and sunlight arrives most consistently. Satellite data from NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has identified subsurface water ice deposits, the frozen foundation upon which all life on any alien world must be built. The stated goal is a self-sustaining city, not a colony dependent on Earth resupply. A city that produces its own food, its own fuel, its own oxygen, its own steel, one that can survive even if the ships stop coming. That single requirement shapes every engineering decision that follows, but surviving on Mars demands something radical, a total reinvention of how human beings build their world. Think about packing for a world with no breathable air, temperatures that drop to minus 80 degrees Celsius at night, radiation that would kill an unprotected human within a year, and atmospheric pressure so thin it would cause your blood to boil if you stepped outside without a suit. Now think about packing that for 1 million people. The material challenge of Mars is almost incomprehensible. Almost. SpaceX's solution starts with stainless steel, a material that performs brilliantly in cryogenic cold and searing atmospheric re-entry heat, is relatively cheap, and can eventually be manufactured on Mars using local iron ore and carbon. The habitats will combine prefabricated modules launched from Earth with structures built from the planet itself. Robotic 3D printers, sent ahead of any human crew, will use Martian regolith, the loose rock and dust covering the surface, to construct reinforced walls and tunnels. Underground corridors, shielded by meters of soil from radiation, will form the city's bones, not gloomy caverns, pressurized, brilliantly lit chambers and vaulted domes that would feel, to their residents, like a futuristic underground world, unlike anything ever constructed on Earth. How could engineers possibly breathe life into all of this on a dead planet with no atmosphere, no industry, and no margin for error? The answer begins with a single molecule, CO2, Mars is 95% carbon dioxide. To most organisms, this is poison. To SpaceX's engineers, this is raw material. The Sabatier reaction, a chemical process discovered over a century ago, combines CO2 with hydrogen to produce methane and water. Methane is rocket fuel. This is how Starship refuels on Mars for the return journey to Earth, but the same principle powers the entire life support system. Electrolysis splits water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen breathes life into the habitats. The hydrogen loops back into the Sabatier reactor, a closed ecosystem engineered entirely from the Martian atmosphere, a silver ribbon of chemistry cutting across a sea of red dust. NASA's MOXIE experiment carried aboard the Perseverance rover already proved that oxygen can be extracted from the Martian atmosphere. SpaceX plans to scale this technology by thousands. Compact nuclear reactors will land with the first crews, later supplemented by vast fields of solar panels carpeting the Martian plains. Imagine a factory the size of a city block, humming day and night, pulling breathable air from a dead world and pumping it into the veins of a living city. But the biggest challenge was not power. It was not oxygen. It was not even radiation. The biggest challenge was the human mind. Before any settler arrives, waves of automated systems will run relentless tests. Every habitat seal stress tested at 1.5 times operating pressure. Ultrasonic sensors scanning welds for microscopic fractures invisible to the human eye. AI monitoring systems tracking oxygen levels, CO2 buildup, temperature, and structural integrity around the clock. Because a failure on Mars cannot be fixed by a repair crew driving over from the next town. There is no next town. There is only the team already standing there and the tools they brought with them. NASA's CHAPEA mission already simulated 378 consecutive days on a Mars surface analog. The psychological data is sobering. Isolation, monotony, and the crushing awareness of being impossibly far from everyone you have ever loved create challenges that no piece of hardware can solve. SpaceX's city model addresses this deliberately by building not a barracks but a community, greenhouses, shared gathering spaces, art, music, entertainment. The first Mars city will have a coffee shop before it has a courthouse, because human beings do not just need air and calories, they need beauty, they need connection, they need a reason to stay. Now imagine 50 years after that first city blinks to life in the Martian dust. A planet dead for 4 billion years is stirring again. Mars will become the greatest laboratory in human history, where the brutal constraints of survival on another world force solutions to problems we do not even know we have yet. New materials, new energy systems, new ways to grow food, recycle water, and build communities that waste nothing. Every breakthrough forged on Mars will eventually return to Earth and transform it, because necessity, as it has always been, is the mother of everything worth building. This is the deepest irony of the mission. We think we are going to Mars to escape Earth's problems, but we are actually building a forge, a furnace of necessity, that will produce the very solutions Earth desperately needs. A world where every drop of water is recycled, every joule of energy is accounted for, and every gram of food is grown with care and intention. A blank red canvas on which humanity finally gets to paint its most deliberate self. Elon Musk's stated goal is 1 million people on Mars by 2050. Aggressive, without question. Impossible? Virtually no serious engineer believes that anymore. The technology exists, the will exists, the only thing that remains is the doing and the grinding, decade-long, failure-filled, world-changing doing that has always defined our species at its greatest. A century ago, a human on the moon was science fiction. Today, the most powerful rocket ever built lifts off from the Texas coast, aimed eventually at a rust-colored dot in the night sky. The city is coming. The only question is what it will mean for every human being born there, watching a pale blue star rise in the west, knowing it is called Earth and that their grandparents came from it.